Good evening. I'm Brendan Fernandez, and this is my audience for today.
Jalen Musonda.
Stephen King.
Alright. And today I will be explaining to you guys why Kendrick Lamar won the war against Drake in their latest rap beef. If you haven't heard of it, I will explain to you why Kendrick won, and if you have heard, I'd like to know who you think won. So Kendrick beat Drake with his lyrical superiority, his authenticity, his strategic mastermindness that he implemented, and the awards that came with this entire war. Kendrick was consistently demonstrating a depth that Drake could not keep up with. He was going more for personal attacks against Drake than what Drake was able to come back with. Drake was more, I'd say, surface level, like scratches more than like real digs. According to Forbes, listeners found it lacking, and many comments have already declared Lamar as the victor. This is referring to Drake. So, not just the critics, but even the general public found Drake's lyrics to just not be as meaningful and not as really hurtful, which is what you're going for when you're having like a diss battle against somebody. Kendrick was able to paint a picture with what he was saying, and he's better at storytelling, which really was able to have people see what he was trying to say more than Drake was able to produce. And with authenticity, Kendrick was more authentic, which led to more respect in the community. People found what he had to say as more as the truth. He had insiders in Drake's camps. He had a lot more information on Drake than Drake had on him. And according to Time.com, Lamar had successfully used his skills as a musician and wordsmith to persuade people that Drake is genuinely a bad person. People already didn't have the best perception of Drake. There had been some stories of him doing some kind of weird things in the past, but nothing ever too serious. But after this, Kendrick was able to expose him as he called him a pedophile. He called him a deadbeat father. Said he did bad things to women, which people were not. After more information came out about that, people started finding out that Drake actually, these things might be true, and it was not a good look for Drake. Drake had allegations of ghostwriting, which in the hip-hop community, that's what, I'm not gonna say what most people care about, but when it comes to being authentic, like that's, if you write your own lyrics, that matters a lot. And having allegations of ghostwriting and just hopping on trends, it really kills your authenticity in music. Strategically, Kendrick was able to, his timing was impeccable. According to Time.com, it was only 72 hours after Euphoria dropped. So within 3 days, Kendrick had dropped a whole nother song, and it was just a consistent, just blows dropping on Drake's head. He wasn't able to keep up, and Drake had dropped a song, and I think Kendrick had dropped within 20 minutes after that. So it was just, anytime Drake dropped, Kendrick rebutted almost immediately, and it really killed any momentum that he tried to build. It was a barrage of attacks that really overshadowed anything Drake had to say, and it really cemented Kendrick as the victor of this whole thing. Kendrick did not engage in public outbursts as Drake was doing. He was making a lot of Instagram posts and Twitter rants that people just kind of found corny. And when you're having a diss battle, it comes more to the music more than what you have to say on social media. So people in the general community just found it just not as real as what Kendrick was doing. And with the awards that Kendrick had won with this whole thing, he won 5 Grammy Awards. he, with one song, Not Like Us, won Best Song, Best Rap Song, and it really just cemented Kendrick as having at least the best song of this whole thing, which, when it comes to who you think won, I think numbers matter a lot. According to allrapsnews.com, an article from Dolgy Wilberforce, Drake, who had consistently maintained a higher monthly listener count since the inception of Spotify, now finds himself falling behind. So Drake was always known as like the biggest artist in the game. He was untouchable to most. But after this whole war, Kendrick had taken the spot as king, and it really just showed who gained the most, who had the most to gain from this war. And if Drake had beaten Kendrick, he would have stayed on top. So since Kendrick passed him in numbers, passed him in awards, it's hard to make a case for Drake. And Drake does have a lot of awards in his time, but Kendrick has the most by any hip hop artist ever, with 22 Grammy Awards. Kendrick Lamar also performed the biggest song, Not Like Us, with a slew of other songs, including a couple of the diss tracks, at the Super Bowl halftime show in front of the entire country, where he stood on stage and said, "No more round twos," basically saying that this rap war is over, and everyone knows who won. He was the one performing at the Super Bowl halftime show while Drake was on tour in Australia. So in conclusion, Kendrick Lamar beat Drake by using his lyrical ability, his authenticness, a great strategy, and just with all the praise and awards that came with it. So if anybody has any questions, please, now's the time.
One question I can ask is, how do you think this beef will impact music going forward?
I think this will impact music going forward because people might see it as a way to gain popularity by getting into a diss war. So they might not make it as authentic as this one was, but people saw how much Kendrick had gained from this entire thing, that they might try to start wars themselves, because diss tracks are very popular. People like to see drama. So if that's what brings in the views, that's what people might start doing more of. And do you have a question?
When did this beef start?
It started a long time ago, really. They had made songs together back in the day, but Kendrick had dropped a verse on Big Sean's Control where he called out Drake. He called out a whole lot of rappers, but Drake was one of the ones that took it more personally. So, yeah, thank you for listening, and